I want to hop on to talk about the storm that we've got coming this way, sort of dive into some of our computer models and talk about why we're expecting this storm to be so significant. So let's get right to it. I'm going to show you one of our computer models. This is the GFS computer model here, and just a classic evolution for a northeastern U.S. blizzard. You can see this trough digs deeply. You get two or three different systems to phase together and create one, and it develops into a very powerful storm coming right up the coast. This is a really, really classic look for a big snowstorm from DC all the way up to Boston. So the pieces are here. I think now it just gets into now we just need to figure out the details and some of the smaller scale features and figure out exactly where the storm tracks, exactly how strong it is, and where the heaviest snow bands set up. And that is going to be the question here with the storm. We're still 36 hours to 48 hours out from the worst of this, so still a little bit of time, but most of the general details are sort of figured out now. We have got a pretty good model consensus here. So this is the GFS computer model. Here's the center of the storm. This is for Sunday at 7 p.m. The center of the storm is right off the coast of Ocean City, Maryland, 991 millibars. Remember that number. Watch what happens. In 6 hours, it deepens to 976, so we're talking about a 15 millibar drop in pressure in 6 hours. That is extremely, extremely fast. And then you get the band of heavy snow on the northwest side of it, and that begins to pivot to the north. You're down to 967 millibars here by 7 a.m. So you're talking about a 25 millibar drop. This is a very intense storm, and the band of heavy snow stretches from Cape Cod all the way west toward Long Island Sound and back toward New York City, and then the storm begins to fill in as it occludes and moves away. But again, this track here, close enough to southern New England to bring the heavy snow all the way inland. Heavy snow for New Jersey and New York City as well. Long Island is in a good spot for this one. Just a classic look here. One thing I did want to show you here, I'm going to pull up the 700 millibar. Let's look about 10,000 feet above our heads. And this is tomorrow at 1 p.m. This is Sunday at 1 p.m. There's not much showing up here. But watch what happens as the storm begins to form. By 7 p.m., you get a closed low at 700 millibars to develop right over Delaware and the Delmarva Peninsula. And what we look for is generally with these kinds of systems as they develop, you get a band of very, very heavy snow, probably no more than about 30 miles wide, to the northwest of that 700 millibar low. That tends to be the area that gets the heaviest snow. Think about the 2013 blizzard. We had that from central Long Island up into Bridgeport and New Haven, and then continued up into north central Connecticut. And so the question is, where does that set up? How far inland does it get? This is by 7 a.m. And if you were to let me switch over here to I'll do 700 millibar winds. Might be a better way of looking at it. Where does that band set up? And just looking at this, that would argue to me somewhere right over southern New England, back toward portions of New York City, New Jersey, and sometimes just north and west of that can be where you get the heaviest snow bands. So one thing we're doing with our forecast here, we're forecasting 10 to 20 inches, or about 1 to 2 feet for all of Connecticut, really most of southern New England for that matter. But the question is, where does that heavy snow band set up? Now, if we look at total, let's see, here we go. If we look at total QPF, so this is liquid precipitation, you're looking at about 1 to 2 inches from Boston all the way down to Delaware and Maryland. And some areas here in New Jersey, especially, close to 3 inches of liquid. That's a 3-footer kind of snowstorm. That's a big storm. And so, fluctuations in where this sets up. I think there's always sort of a surprise with these storms where someone like way north and west gets into this band and they're just puking snow at a really heavy rate, even though they were not, modeled to be in like where the heaviest QPF was. And so I think we're going to see that. So that's why we didn't get too cute with the snow totals. We just sort of broad brushed everything. But this is obviously a really impressive look. I'm going to switch this over. Let me switch this over to the NAM just to show you a couple of our other computer models here. If I can find it. Here we go. Let's go to... This is the NAM, which has anywhere between 1.5 and 2.5 inches here, close to 4 inches of liquid down in New Jersey. That's like a beast of a storm. Very, very impressive. if we're looking at something like this, we're talking about 2 feet of snow across most of southern New England, New York City, down through New Jersey, sort of a historic blizzard here. But not all of our computer models show that kind of precipitation. I'm going to show you what I mean here. Let's take a look at the Canadian, which just came out. The Canadian is definitely a little farther offshore. Has about an inch of liquid here in Connecticut. That's about a foot of snow. But again, we'll watch for that heavy snow band that sets up on the northwest side of things, but still close to 2 inches of liquid down to New Jersey and Cape Cod. So it's a good look for some heavy snow, but that would not be that sort of like crazy blizzard. And I'll show you why this is happening on this computer model, for instance. If I go back here, this is the Canadian. See, it just tracks the whole thing a little bit farther off to the south. So it doesn't quite get it as far north, we sort of scrape along the northern edge. So, could that happen? Yeah, totally. I think, 50-mile swing in either direction could get you something like that. I'm curious to see what the European does. We don't have it in quite yet, but the European was a little bit sort of in between. This is the track, and I'll show you the total precipitation here. Looking at about an inch, and doesn't quite have that bullseye down toward New Jersey. So sort of curious to see, what we get with a trend in either direction. The models have obviously not been great with this storm. So something we'll have to wait and see. The other concern we've got, besides the snow total, so I'm pretty confident of 10 inches, a foot, where we get the 20 or even 30, where the heavy band is, I just don't know quite yet. But one of the things I am concerned with is the wind, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Let's take a look here. I'm going to switch this back over to the GFS. 1 second here. Okay, here we go. Some of the winds that are being detected here, about 3,000 feet up, are just extremely strong, 65, 70, 80 knots. And so we've got the indication here that we could be talking about wind gusts during this thing over 50 miles per hour, basically south of the Mass Pike and south of I-84 especially. Looking at some of the soundings and some of the deeper dives here, looking at really, really impressive kind of winds showing up and the potential for blizzard conditions. So I've got the blizzard warning in effect, and should that be extended inland, we'll see if that heavy snow band gets north, and we're gusting up to 50, of course. But really, really impressive look. And I think if we were to get, if this verified looking like this, I think we would see some scattered or even some widespread power outages because of just how much wind. Temperatures during this, and this is important because I'm going to pull this right up. During the peak of the storm, the temperatures in southeastern Connecticut and right along the coast are pretty close to 32. So there's definitely going to be some concern where if we get to about 32 and the snow is a little heavier and wet, and you got the 50-mile-an-hour winds on top of that, that could add to the power outage concern, especially in southeastern Connecticut, coastal Rhode Island, southeastern Mass, and Long Island. I think that's something that we're going to have to wait and see with this one as it moves up the coast. And so power outages is a concern, unlike the last storm we had where we didn't have that concern with the power outages because we didn't have much wind and the snow was obviously very dry and very fluffy because it was so cold. So those are that's what we're looking at right here with the storm. And I'll just show you one more thing. This is the GFS ensemble. What I'm going to do here, let's put the total precipitation on. Here we go. And this is the GFS ensemble, and you would expect this to sort of smooth out some of the extremes because it's a mean of all 30 different ensemble members, but just a really good 1 to 2 inches of liquid for most of central and eastern Mass, all of Rhode Island, almost all of Connecticut, and then back toward New Jersey and New York City. Big snow totals. But again, where does that heavy band, that deformation zone or that frontogenesis set up? How far northwest does that go? That's still a bit of a question. So there's some of the things we're watching. So bottom line, big snowstorm, blizzard conditions. Is this sort of a widespread 14-inch kind of deal here in Connecticut? Or do we get that band to come in and we're talking about more widespread 20 inches? I don't know yet. I think that's too early to say. But the wind is a concern. So we've got that added concern with the power outages and some wind damage, some trees and power lines coming down during the height of the storm. So it's been a while since we had a blizzard. I think probably since 2018. since we've had blizzard warnings around here. So we'll keep you posted on the storm. If I get some new information, I'll be sure to pass it along with you. And yeah, let's see what happens. We've got about 36 hours to go before this one moves in.